Hi everyone, this is Alexis Guini, and today we're talking with Pablo Arriola, attorney at the law offices of Pablo Arriola PA. Hi Pablo, welcome. How are you?
Good, good, Ali. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for your time. And talking about coronavirus and all the legal issues between landlords and tenants, what options both landlords and tenants have regarding evictions and regarding rent payments, etc.
Well, Ali, the relationship between a tenant and a landlord, it's contractual. In other words, it's dictated by the contract that they signed when the lease was accepted and the tenant moved in. Those responsibilities and rights didn't change during this process. What has changed is the enforcement part of that. In other words, if the tenant is not paying the rent, that doesn't mean that he doesn't own the rent. The rent is still due. The eviction can still be filed, but the enforcement won't go through. In other words, the landlord can file the eviction. However, the courts will not issue what's known as the summons. The summons is a document that the process server will take with the complaint and take it to the tenant to initiate the 20 days account that the tenant has to answer. That document, that summons, is what the court it's not issuing now, and apparently it's not going to issue them until at least June 1st. Now, if there was a process that was ongoing where that summons was already issued, then the courts will not order the eviction. In other words, it won't order for the sheriff to go down to the property and take those residents out of the property and give the property back to the landlord. But again, the fact that those two enforcements or those two processes are stopped or stayed doesn't mean that the rent isn't due.
Okay, and that doesn't mean that the landlord cannot start the process.
That's correct. The landlord can file the eviction so that the eviction will be on record.
So it will be reflected on your record, correct?
Correct. And once the ban is lifted, then it will be a matter to just get the summons issue and the process served onto the tenant and or get the sheriff down to the property.
Okay. How long it takes regularly to do it if there's no coronavirus or pandemic around? How long it takes from the beginning of the process until the execution?
There's a couple of factors that will define that period of time. That will depend on mostly on the tenant and on the landlord speed. In other words, everything has days. When the process it started and filed in court, the summons gets issued in a day or two typically, and then is served onto the tenant. Now, if the process server cannot find the tenant for a day or two, then it's a day or two that it will be extended. If the tenant can be found for 5-6 days, then that's the extension that goes on. After that, the tenant has 20 days to answer. So if it answers 10 days later, it's different than 20 days later. But typically, in a process that it's followed through, I can tell you that it takes about 2 months from the time of the right, with everybody moving along and without any unnecessary delays. That's usually the process.
Okay. Is there any difference between if you have an executed agreement for a year lease or if you are a month-to-month basis?
No. The answer is typically no. If you have a lease, meaning an agreement in writing that's in place, meaning it hasn't expired, typically that lease will have some language that will give the tenant time to cure. If you're on a month-to-month basis, as many people are, they don't renew the lease, they just go on. There are statutes that come into place and allow for the tenant to cure or bring the account current within a period of time. The process, however, whether it's one or the other, it's a matter of days. In one situation, the tenant may have 5 days or 7 days or 15 days. and so that's on the other one, depending on where they are. But it's all dictated either by the contract and or by statute.
Got you. Okay, perfect. Now, with all the coronavirus and all the stimulus packages, is there any help for tenants to pay the rent to the landlord, like government help?
Right, that's an excellent question. You mentioned the stimulus package. That was the one help that we received from the government. We received the stimulus package and that was, by the way, for residents and or citizens. And the other option is that the unemployment we have here in Florida, we have the Florida unemployment, and we have the federal unemployment that comes through the state of Florida as well.
That's the $600 per month until July 31st, right?
The federal one is, yes. The federal is a 4 months benefit. If you qualify for $1, you qualify for the whole $600. And that's for the federal. And then the state unemployment is based on the requirements of the state. It usually goes by amounts. If you have a job or if you receive some income, it reduced from that payment. There are cities may go ahead and issue stimulus packages. Recently, meaning 2 days ago, the city of Miami came out with a stimulus package of up to $1,500 that's going to be paid directly to the landlord. And there is a criteria that the tenant needs to submit an application and qualify for that. The landlord also needs to submit some documents. My suggestion is go ahead and do it together, because if the tenant can't pay, this may be the one opportunity that the landlord may have to collect that rent or part of it.
To collect the rent, yeah.
Correct.
But it's going to be a one-time payment, or or we don't know yet how they're going to process it.
Right now, it's a one-time payment. It's for just the first 1 month. It's I don't want to say it's high. It's hard to qualify, but there are a number of requirements to qualify, and I'm afraid that not everybody will qualify.
Yeah, I can imagine. In terms of landlords, is there any help if they are not available to pay their mortgages, their insurance, etc.? Is there any help specifically designated for landlords?
No, Ale, right now there is not that I'm aware of, at least. What we are suggesting landlords and clients in general is, if they have a responsibility that they can't meet, may that be, like you mentioned, paying insurance or paying the mortgage itself, it's to call the lender to call the insurance company and ask for options, alternatives. Sometimes, like has been done in the past, is if you can't pay for 2 months, they may ask you to write a hardship letter, and then the 2 months that you can't pay now, they put it later at the end of the loan, and they extend the term of the loan. That's an option.
Same thing with HOAs and associations?
No. Yes and no. Again, if you don't pay your maintenance on the association or the homeowners, whether it's an association or a condominium, the collection process will initiate. After a period of time, usually 2 or 3 months, the association can go ahead and put a lien on the property and eventually go through foreclosure. Now, again, the process of enforcing that foreclosure will not issue the summons, and so it will be stayed at that point. Can the association work with the unit owners? Yes. However, again, going back to what we've discussed, it's a contractual obligation, and you're still responsible for paying your dues.
Okay, good. And the best way to find out is talking to your landlord, talking to your lender, and talking to your association, whatever case it is, right?
The issue of talking to the association is a little different, because when you owe money to, let's say, your landlord, and you owe money to your lender, that is a private institution that has lent money to you. When you're talking about the HOA and the association, it's a community effort. It's everybody chipping in the case of an association, to keep up with the common elements, call that security, cleaning the pool, keeping the grass green and so on and so forth. So it's a little more complicated issue. But if the association gives you a break, then they need to give everybody else a break as well. And then who's going to keep up with the costs and expenses of keeping up with the association? So it's a whole different situation.
That's a great point.
But again,
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you very much, Pablo. Where people can find you?
Like most people can find me at home. I'm
right
working
now,
from my house.
Exactly.
My number is my number is 786-636-1001. My email address is P for Pablo A, P Arriola, it's P A Arriola at arriolapa.com. ARRIOLA.pa.com.
Good. We're going to put all your information on the description below. And once again, thank you for your time. Hope to talk to you really soon.
Sure, Ale. Thank you for having me, and I'm here to help you anytime you need. Thank you so much.
Thank you.